Hi there, welcome back to the Art of Business English, where we help people like you get the language skills you need for doing business in English. Now, this is episode 163, I believe, heading into season 4. We're well on our way to 4 seasons now, which is great. It's been at it for a while now, and today I am looking at some really useful language skills, and that is how to give and respond to suggestions. So obviously, giving suggestions is a massive communicative skill that you need. It's something that you need to do every day in business. Really, it's essential as part of a problem-solving skill set that you should have, because every day we do need to provide suggestions to our boss or our colleagues, because that's a part of the problem-solving paradigm that we need to go through. As well as giving suggestions, we need to respond effectively to them as well. So I'm going to give you some expressions. Just as a note, I think it's important to remember that a lot of these expressions are quite neutral or informal. I wouldn't say that they're really formal language. So you're going to be using them in everyday English with people that you know and that you're not really in a formal context. So just keep that in mind, because maybe if you are in a formal meeting or you're with some important clients or customers, you want to maintain a formal tone, and some of these expressions may not be 100% appropriate for these formal meetings. So just bear that in mind. So we're going to start today's lesson by looking at giving suggestions. Then in the second part, I'll look at responding to suggestions. And finally, I've got a couple of little introductory phrases for you that you can use to express reservation. Now, expressing reservation is when you want to show or transmit to someone that you're not really convinced or certain about their idea. So you're not really, excited about it, and you want to just express a little bit of doubt. And with these expressions, you can do that. So let's dive in and look at how we can make some suggestions. All right, so the first one is, how do or how would you feel about that? So how do you feel about that, or how would you feel about that? How do is more direct. How would you feel about that is a little bit more suggestive, because we're using the conditional would. So how would you feel about that? Or how do you feel about that? So you can see the rising intonation. So an example would be, how do you feel about implementing one-on-ones, weekly one-on-ones with your direct reports? Okay, so those are weekly one-on-one meetings. So I'm making a suggestion to you to have weekly meetings with your report. All right, let's look at the next one, which is, could we go for? Could we go for? I say to go for something is to, go for it, head direction towards it. So it's like you want to get close to it. So in this case, we're using it as a suggestion to go for an idea, meaning opt for it, accept it. So an example would be, could we go for something a bit more creative? I feel this has been done before. So the person is suggesting to the person that they try something different, be a bit more creative. And the next one is, what do you think about? And you can see, what do you think about? I'm using the verb as I'm increasing or rising my intonation on the verb. So what do you think about? And basically that's quite simple. No? What's your opinion of? So let's look at an example. So what do you think about implementing a new approach to strategic planning within the organization? So that's basically me asking you for your opinion. Another one is, I was thinking of. I was thinking of. So you're just putting it on the table. I was thinking of this. And of course, you can, if it's I was thinking of, it's something. So you would put a noun, okay? If it's a verb after that, you'd have to have it in gerund, because it's a preposition. Okay, let's give you an example of that. I was thinking of discussing this problem with Mark. Do you think he would be okay with that? So I was thinking of means, do you think this is a good idea? Again, it's very similar to what do you think of? So I was thinking of this, and I'm using this intonation this rising intonation to transmit to you that I would like your input. I would like you to give me some advice on this, or your thoughts on this, okay? Now, the next one is interesting expression. It says, so it's how does, and then you put the thing you're discussing, or you want to think about, or the thing that you're suggesting. How does the thing strike you? Now, to strike is to hit So strike you means like, how does that sound to you? Like, how does this thing impact on you? So it's a bit of a metaphor here. Doesn't literally mean that you hit someone. Okay, it's just an expression. So how does advertising on Instagram, that's my suggestion, strike you as a marketing strategy for this summer? Okay, so my idea is to advertise on Instagram. Wow, how creative. But that's my idea. And I'm asking you what your opinion is. So how does advertising on Instagram strike you for the marketing strategy this summer? And obviously then the person has an opportunity to reply. Now the next one is making a suggestion to someone, and it would be great if you could come up with. So it's quite a long one. Now we use would because it's more polite and less direct. So it would be great, meaning I would like this. It would be great if you could come up with. Now to come up with is a phrasal verb which means to create ideas. Okay? In Spanish, I think it's idear, if that's something you're familiar with. So to idear is to make ideas, no? So to come up with something is to have a brainstorming session and think about some ideas. It would be great if you could come up with some additional design ideas. These ones are not really getting the team excited. So the person who's created these design ideas, possibly for the marketing campaign, will need to create or have some new ideas or bring forward some new ideas, because the team who's responsible for accepting the proposal is not very excited about the ideas that have been presented. Okay, and the last one on my list for making suggestions is, would you consider ... instead? So would you consider is also quite polite. I'm making a suggestion. Would you consider it? To consider something means to take something into consideration, to give it some thought and either accept it or not. So an example sentence would be, would you consider offering new customers a 10% discount instead? So my suggestion to you is offering customers a 10% discount instead. And when we put instead at the end of a sentence like this, we mean it's like I'm offering you another suggestion from something that you've already said. So I'm saying, instead of this, how about this? Meaning your idea was this, but I'm going to suggest this instead. So the instead goes at the end. It means we're offering you a second option. Okay, so those are expressions you can use for making suggestions. Some of them are more formal than others, especially the ones that have used the conditionals with would. Those are going to be able to be used in more formal contexts. However, some of the less common ones, the less formal ones, which are like, I was thinking of, or how does such and such strike you? I mean, these are a little bit more neutral or informal. Okay, let's turn now to the second part of the episode, where we're going to look at how to respond to some of these suggestions. Okay, let's turn to the second part now, looking at ways that you can respond to people's suggestions. My first piece of advice is, be careful with responding to suggestions, especially if you don't like them. It's nice to be polite to people and not hurt their feelings. And you never know, maybe an idea just needs to be explored in more detail before you decide that it's not a good idea. So just think about some of these expressions in terms of their context. Some of them are like saying, yes, it's great, and others are saying, no, I don't think it's great. So I'm going to guide you on which ones are more polite and which ones are maybe more neutral. So let's dive in and look at expressions for responding to suggestions. Now, the first one is, that's a fantastic idea. So obviously in this context, the person is really happy about it. That's a fantastic idea. And we can put the rising intonation on fantastic, okay? And the intonation or accent in English goes in the first syllable, fantastic, not fantastic. Okay, so that's a fantastic idea. Okay, or you can put it a little bit at the end, fantastic. So you can play around with that, okay? So obviously here the person really thinks the idea is good, okay? If an idea is fantastic, it's good. All right, let's go with some expressions now, or with some examples, sorry. That's a fantastic idea. All the data points to improved performance with weekly one-on-ones. So that's a fantastic idea. All the data points to improved performance with weekly one-on-ones. So the person likes the suggestion about having weekly one-on-one meetings. All right, let's look at the next one. I think that's too dangerous. So I think that is too dangerous. So dangerous sounds a bit serious, doesn't it? Something could be dangerous if you take, if you take a decision. It could be dangerous. It could have some negative consequences. So I think that is too dangerous is something that you could say in this context. Let me give you an example. I think it's too dangerous. We should stick with what works and not try and reinvent the wheel. So I think that's too dangerous. I think we should stick with what works and not try and reinvent the wheel. So if you reinvent the wheel, it means, you're trying to create something from something new, from something that already works, and it doesn't make sense. So the person doesn't like your suggestion of creating new ideas for the marketing strategy or the corporate image, because you should just stick with what works, because that's what generates sales. And maybe if you changed your plan, it would be dangerous because the company might lose, its way. The company might lose its existing customer base, things like that. Okay. All right, let's look at the next one. All right, the next one is also negative. It doesn't grab me. So to grab is like to grab, take someone in your hands and pull them. Okay, so if you grab something, you reach for it and pull it, and often you grab it quite forcefully. So if something doesn't grab you, it doesn't really spark your interest. It doesn't really do anything to excite you. So again, this is a bit metaphorical. You don't literally grab people with ideas, okay? You can do it in a metaphorical sense, okay? And if you are interested in looking at metaphors, we did discuss those last week on the episode 162, metaphors with body parts. So check that out. I'll link up to it in the show notes. All right, so an example sentence is, it doesn't grab me. It just sounds like we are creating more work, which means we'll have less time for actual strategic planning. So the person doesn't really like the idea of changing the approach to strategic planning within the organization, because the idea doesn't grab them, because they think that in the end, this change of approach is going to just create more work for people, and they'll have less time to actually focus on strategic planning, which is the objective of this department or maybe this team within the organization. Okay, so the next one is like, we spoke about this before, go for. Remember I said go for? I gave you an example with to go for something. You can use I would, he would, she would, we would, they would. Okay, so, and really important the pronunciation. So you would say I'd. We don't really say I would. In more colloquial, like spoken English, we would use the contracted form of I would, and we'd say I'd. I'd go for it. He'd go for it. So it's he'd. He'd go for it. She'd go for it. We'd go for it. We'd go for it. They'd go for it. So you can see the contraction really does change the sound, okay? So I'd go for it means I would do it. I would accept it. I like it. Okay. So I'd go for it is an idea that you like. Okay. You're responding positively to a suggestion. So let me give you an example. He'd go for it. Mark is always ready to lend a helping hand. This means that you think Mark would accept or be happy to help you with the problem that you're working on. Remember, we made a suggestion. I was thinking of, talking to Mark about this problem. So yes, he'd go for it. Or I'd go for it if I want to accept your suggestion. Next one is, let's go with that. Okay, so let's go with that means let's is the imperative form for us. So it's like quite direct. Let's go with it. Meaning to go with something means you accept it and you will start to implement it. So it's a positive reaction to a suggestion. Let me give you an example sentence. Let's go with that. We can promote our new range of swimsuits on Instagram. Now, this person is accepting positively the suggestion to, advertise and create a summer marketing campaign on Instagram. So that's a positive one. The next one's also quite informal. I'm torn between. So torn is the simple past, the past participle form of the verb tear. So tear, which is like when you rip something, like if you tear your clothes or you tear a muscle. So this is when there is like, it's ripped and tear or torn. So it's an irregular verb. So it's tear, tore, torn. Tear, tore, torn. So tear is the present simple or the infinitive form. Tore is the simple past, and torn is the past participle form of this verb. So I'm torn between means both options are pulling me and I can't decide between them. So one option's pulling this way, one option's pulling this way, and that's why I'm torn, because it's creating this rip in the cohesion between my decision. I can't decide because there are two good options. So let me give you an example sentence. I'm torn between these two colors for the marketing campaign imagery. So the person who's trying to design the marketing campaign has got two sets of colors that they want to use, and they like them both, but they can't really decide which one they will use in the end. So if you're torn between something, you can, if someone makes a suggestion, you can say, I don't know, I'm really torn between this restaurant and that restaurant, if someone suggests going to a restaurant. Okay, so that is quite informal, but still nonetheless a good one. Let's look at the next one. This one's also quite negative. That's not very original. So, oh, that's not very original. So you're not really excited about this suggestion that the person's made because you don't really think it's creative or original. And it's quite direct. So you need to be careful with who you say that to. So let me give you an example sentence. That's not very original. Plus, if we give our new customers a 10% discount, then what about the old ones? So this means that obviously, you know, to attract new customers, we're going to give them a 10% discount, which isn't the most original idea in marketing. However, the person's saying that if we give a 10% discount to new clients, then maybe the existing clients will complain and say, hey, why do the new clients get a discount and I'm an old client and I don't get a discount? So that person's not really excited about your suggestion. So those are my expressions and examples for how you can give people some feedback on their suggestions and how you can respond to those suggestions. Now, in the last part of the episode, I'm going to give you some introductory phrases that you can use to express reservations. So let's check it out. Okay, so let's look at these expressions for showing someone that you have some reservations about what it is that they've said. Okay, so reservations, as I mentioned, means that you're not convinced, you're not really certain about what they've said. So the first one is frankly. Okay, so it's an adverb. Frankly. Frankly, John, I don't care what you think. Now that is super direct and pretty heavy. I mean, if you're going to say that to someone in a meeting, you need to be very careful because they're probably going to react very negatively. Okay. Another one is with all due respect. Okay, with all due respect. So with all due respect, I think you've got the wrong impression of me, meaning you respect the person's opinion, however, you think it's wrong. Okay, that's really quite direct as well. So the next one is to put it bluntly. And this is a very direct expression. It means that you're going to be completely honest with someone, even if you think it's going to upset them or hurt their feelings. So please be careful with this expression. You need to be very careful. You would only use this with people that you're comfortable with and maybe in a meeting where tensions are a bit high. So to put it bluntly, I think you're wasting my time. Okay, so if you said that to someone, wow, they would probably react negatively to that. Okay. So the next one is as a matter of fact. So as a matter of fact is when we state things clearly as well. We're like, oh, this is the truth. Now, this one is like, as a matter of fact, I think you may have found the solution. So you're not certain, but you are going to say to the person that you believe they could have found the solution. So it's suggestive. You do have some reservations, but as a matter of fact, you think that they have found it. Okay, so this one's can be used in a positive light. Okay, so the next one is to be honest, and you need to be careful with this expression because to be honest means yes, I'm going to tell it exactly as it is. However, if you say to be honest, maybe it's going to discredit you because then people will think, oh, and before we were speaking, you were being dishonest. So this expression, be careful as well with it. So, to be honest, I don't think we're getting anywhere with this, meaning I think we're wasting our time. Okay, so again, be careful with these expressions. Okay, and the last one on my list is actually. So actually means like the truth, factually. It doesn't, I think I spoke about this 2 weeks ago in episode 161 of the Art of Business English. So you need to be careful with actually because in Spanish it doesn't mean actualmente, because actualmente in Spanish is currently, meaning at the moment. Actually means de hecho, meaning in fact. Okay, so just be careful you don't confuse this one. So here's an example sentence. Actually, I thought the meeting was on Friday, not Monday. Okay, so you're stating that you think this is the truth. So again, these expressions, you need to be careful with some of them because they can be quite direct and maybe someone's going to respond quite negatively to those. However, those are also expressions that you can use in your vocabulary repertoire in meetings in English. So there you have it, people. That is the end of this episode. I hope you found all of these expressions useful and that you're going to start putting them into practice and using them in your next meeting. As I said, just be careful with the formality of each of them. If you want, you can come back and check this out. And of course, if you are interested in improving your vocabulary repertoire and your skills for participating in meetings, then definitely check out the Art of Business English Premium Program, Confidence in Business Meetings. Here I take you through all of the stages of a meeting, from the planning and preparing stages right through to bringing meetings to an end, then following up with people, giving feedback, and really assessing the effectiveness of the meeting that you had. So it's like a really global approach to how you can perform in meetings, and all, of course, in English. It's full of top tips and full of expressions and vocabulary that you can use to better articulate yourself and communicate more effectively at all stages of a meeting. So check it out. You can have a look at the blog. There is obviously an offer there for you, so don't be shy. Check it out, and I'm sure you'll love the program. That's it for me, people. I am going to head off now, and I'll see you all next week for another episode of the Art of Business English podcast. Take care and bye for now.